I believe Egypt is literally at a boiling point. I believe the Sisi regime is at very high risk. Netanyahu does not want the Trump plan to succeed. Americans do not want Islam in the hearts and minds of the Ummah.
I want to ask you, Sheikh, is there hope?
The only hope for world peace for everybody is Islam. God have promised us victory, but when?
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the I3 Pulse. Today, why did Israel really break the ceasefire? Is this the beginning of Netanyahu's downfall? And has Trump lost control, or is he being played into a war with Iran? And with the Muslim rulers complicit in genocide, what can we as an ummah actually do to help our brothers and sisters in Palestine? Today on I3 Pulse. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah.
So, Sheikh, we've been seeing that the U.S. has forced Israel into phase one of the ceasefire. Even Michael Bowler, the U.S. envoy of hostages, for the first time having a direct conversations and secret talks with Hamas. Things look like they were continuing and towards a proper ceasefire. And then all of a sudden, things just exploded. Like, what happened? Why did Israel break the ceasefire?
Well, what the Americans are saying is that Hamas is not complying with the Trump plan, right? And it seems if this is true, if this news is true, that means that Hamas is not given in to few of the things that the Trump administration wants and has been speaking about. And those two things are either demilitarization of Hamas in one way or another. Number two, they did speak about basically kicking out certain leadership out of Gaza to a host country, and they, I think, suggested Qatar as one example. There's others. And the third thing that I believe is also a big deal is having outside external Arab security forces that come in to take over the security control of the Gaza Strip. And again, that would basically mean that Hamas is letting go of its power over the Gaza Strip, and Hamas seems to basically have refused that. So this would be one reason if this news is true. The other thing is basically that Netanyahu wants to just deflect the second phase and just wants to ruin things for the United States and for everybody else.
Yeah, because January 19th was the first phase of the ceasefire, and then 16 days after they were supposed to negotiate for the second stage, and for a month Israel refused to negotiate terms of phase two, and that was for them to withdraw fully from Gaza and to basically make it a permanent end the war. Yeah. So that again is something Netanyahu doesn't seem that he wants to do at this point.
No, Netanyahu does not want the Trump plan to succeed, which is why there's continuing to be friction between Netanyahu and Trump. This is going to continue. The question is basically, is there real friction with Hamas or not, right? Like, why would the United States speak to Hamas? That's just actually giving them more leverage.
Yeah, and they've never done that, right? They had this whole doctrine. So what prompted that though? That was a confusing part.
Well, it's not confusing. We spoke about it before, but I think this is the signaling to Netanyahu that we're going to cut you off and we're going to start dealing with your enemies. And that's a big thing, really. That really, really, really ticked off Israel in every level. The security, the intelligence, the army, the political circles. Everybody was really, really angry. So this is basically a political maneuver against Netanyahu. The question is basically, was this massacre really Israel? Did Israel get a green light from Trump or not? It seems to me, from what's been said, that Trump did give the green light, and it seems basically there is pressure now on Hamas to let go. And sadly, look, Hamas seems to really have been weakened a lot.
Yeah.
Almost hundreds of people died, men and women, and children and babies were killed by the hundreds. It's so despicable. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala curse them. And they only have been able to launch a couple of rockets. So they've been degraded, definitely. And the Egyptian regime doesn't want to open the doors. So the civilians, the 2.2 million civilians, sadly it's not 2.2 anymore. I think there's 2.1 or less than that due to the killings. Are stuck in the crossfire.
Do you think that this is something that Netanyahu is trying to do for his political future? Because right now he fired the leader of head of Shin Bet. And then after that, now there's even just today, there were videos of protesters trying to break into his house through the barricades and everything. former president of the Supreme Court of Israel, Aaron Barak, he mentioned that this can lead to bloodshed, the way Netanyahu is crossing the lines, even from a democratic perspective.
Look, the cracks within the Israeli political circles is definitely real and definitely deep, and I don't think it's repairable. Okay, it's definitely not repairable. So that's why they're at each other's necks. So this is true, but they're both sides seems to be balanced. That's why no side has been able to take over the other side. If somebody has an edge, it seems to be the Netanyahu side until now. But are things flipping? Yes, it seems to basically be flipping the other way, but very slowly.
And Sheikh, there was a very interesting interview, right, with Tucker Carlson and Steve Witkoff, who is the one who forced the hand of Netanyahu to the phase 1 of the ceasefire. And Tucker actually asked some good questions. One of them was that, do you see what's happened with the videos of the dead children? Wouldn't this inflame the people of Jordan and the people of Egypt and Saudi and lead to political instability? And his answer, I want to get your thoughts on this. And he mentioned that with Jordan, he's not too worried. He was, but things are fine now. With Egypt, it could be a flashpoint. That's something where they're keeping their eyes on. And Saudi Arabia, young populations. Egypt has a high unemployment rate.
I want to say the stats in Egypt are huge unemployment among, under 25, like 45% unemployment. Yeah, a country can't exist like that. They're largely broke. They need a lot of help. If we have a bad event in Egypt, it could take us back. And Saudi Arabia, also large. He's an amazing leader, MBS.
What does that mean? Is it potential for a coup in Egypt? Like, what's going on here?
We said that before, and we're going to say it again. I believe Egypt is literally at a boiling point. Now, whether the Americans have been able to assess that or not, definitely nobody's going to know. If the middle tier of the army moves, they'll move without anybody knowing. So I believe the Sisi regime is at very high risk, and that's very dangerous because Egypt is one of the most largest, if not the largest, Arab country in the Arab world. Right? It's like the Arab world is like 500 million people, plus or minus, and Egypt alone is 120 million. So it's like literally like a quarter of the Arabs are Egyptians.
He mentioned other things like Saudi Arabia will normalize when the Gaza situation is sorted out. Didn't really commit to two-state, but he said two-state in name, like just that they have their kind of autonomy a little bit and all that stuff.
There's no stand.
And then he said Lebanon will normalize. He said Syria will definitely normalize with Jolani. And then he also mentioned that we're going to announce several more countries that are going to do normalization.
And we're in the process of doing it. We think we're going to be announcing several new countries who are joining.
So who could be these countries? Like, it seems like everything's just going down even worse and worse, where everyone's just normalizing.
Look, the Americans want to change Islam. The Americans want to change Islam. The Americans do not want Islam in the hearts and minds of the Ummah. The Americans want a diluted, superficial crust of what Islam is, just the worship, and that's really it. They want the Muslims to become liberal, to become secularized, to become Abrahamic, meaning basically like more of like deists, not really Muslim, deists, like open, all kind of almost Buddhist, basically. All type of religions basically will lead to heaven type of thing. They want to strip us from our identity. They do not want real Muslims. Okay, they want Islam to be very superficial. Like you buy Nike, I buy Adidas. That's just like they just want it to be like that. I'm just trying to simplify it for the viewer. This is the goal. The goal is to not really have Islam to be an active set of values, an active set of beliefs, an idea that can unify a nation, that can build a civilization. They don't want any of that. And they want the domination of the Western powers, the American powers in the Middle East fully. And one of the tools, as we've said a million times, is Israel. Israel is a tool, colonialist of the colonial powers, to subdue the Middle East and to keep it basically fragile, to keep it unstable, to keep it in flux, to keep it in wars and turmoil. So the question is basically, what do we do as Muslims about it? Like, we have 2 billion Muslims out of 8 billion people. And to be honest, the world peace for everybody, for the 8 billion people, we care about everybody, nobody excluded. The world peace is conditioned on the Muslimin rising up and unifying. The Muslim Ummah is the agent of peace. Because see, we're coming into a world right now. As a matter of fact, there's an article that was just recently published in Foreign Affairs magazine, which is the most reputable international relations magazine in the world, by a professor in international politics. Her name is Monica Duffy Tuft. The name of the article was basically The Return of the Spheres of Influence. So what she's arguing, and she's more presenting facts of how the world is changing. She's saying the world's going back to the 19th century and the 18th century. We're going back to the game of empires. Literally to basically conquest and just like taking over lands, and Trump wants to take over Greenland and Canada and Panama. And she's not saying that because of these specific prompts from Trump. No, it's what's happening in the world. Russia invaded Georgia and then invaded Ukraine once and then took over land. And khalas, that's it. This is Russian land. And took over more land in 2022. And that's it. It's occupied. It's not occupied. Russia's like, this is Russian land. Khalas, done. We took it over and it's ours, basically. It's literally playing, risk. It's like people, countries taking over countries by force, and this is the new de facto world order. So the world, the planet is going back into the chaos of instability, and the game of empires. China wants to take over Taiwan. Wants to take over basically the South China Sea and dictate, trade routes. The Americans wants to do the same thing in the Arctic. The Russians and the Chinese are trying to do also on the other side of the Arctic. It's just becoming a game of empires, and with that comes super instability for everybody. The world is becoming a very scary place, and that's why Muslims today, not just for Gaza, but definitely primarily for places where there's live genocide on a daily basis, like Gaza and East Turkestan and so forth. The only hope for world peace for everybody is Islam. Again, Islam has been demonized by American media and Western media. Islam has been presented to the Western audience and to the global audience in a very deformed way.
Yeah.
And it's our job right now to, number one, clarify the message of Islam to Muslims, and clarify the message of Islam to the non-Muslims, to the rest of the world, and to mobilize this ummah to seek its true position in the world as a unified nation that spreads civility and civilization, peace and harmony, and progress and human development for the whole planet.
Sheikh, a lot of Muslims feel this sense, and I hear this a lot now, right? Especially after what's been happening. It's like, this is the signs of the decline, things are going to get worse, and the end of time, Imam Mahdi comes, things will get better, right? And so people just lost hope, right? And the honest question I want to ask you, Sheikh, is there hope?
Yes. Look, the situation is so bad, and sadly it might even get worse and worse and worse. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described His close servants. Yeah, ألا إن أولياء الله لا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Indeed, the close servants to God are the ones that basically nobody should fear for them, because they're fearless, because they're connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they never get sad and hopeless when people get sad. And there's a hadith basically, لا يخافون إذا خاف الناس ولا يحزنون إذا حزن الناس أو إذا حزن الناس. Meaning basically they don't get scared when people get scared, and they don't become hopeless and sad when people become hopeless and sad. So definitely there's hope. God have promised us victory. God have promised us His support. God have promised us, authority in the lands. But when we do our portion. See, what keeps being, what people keep telling the Muslim Ummah, whether it's scholars or community leaders or whatever it is, the media and so forth, the secular orientalist and modernist views and mindsets, is that we can't do much. We have to just basically we need to do whatever we can just within our own little sphere of influence as individuals. No. If we unify, if we put our hands together, we can build synergies. We can build lots of stuff together as a nation. We're 2 billion. We have the most youthful population on planet Earth. We have the biggest geography on planet Earth. So that the lies that people keep telling us, that if we just do what you can, just do dua and so forth. Ya akhi, dua is needed. And giving sadaqah is needed. And signing petitions is needed. and speaking to your MPs and your members of parliament is needed, and protesting whenever it's possible and peaceful is needed. Boycotting different products is needed. All of this you should do. For me, this is just like the basics that everybody should do. But we need to understand that this will not get to the, this will not be solution. This will not solve. This might resolve some pain.
Yeah.
But it's not going to solve the real cause of the issue.
So we saw that very clearly, Sheikh, right? That Israel just blockaded all the aid, right? All these aid trucks, they were being let in, everyone was happy, and then they shut it down very quickly. So it's almost like not a cup of water goes in Gaza without the approval of the Netanyahu regime. Now, what you're saying, Sheikh, is very hopeful, but really, what can the Muslims do when the Muslim leaders and the armies and everything are actually allowing for these things to happen in a sense, right? And what power does a regular person have?
It's very simple. It's very simple. We need to do da'wah, but see, that da'wah needs to be targeted. When people say da'wah, they do da'wah to the layman in the street that doesn't have any power for change. Number two, they try to target the non-Muslims to convert them.
Yes.
This is not the da'wah of the prophets. All this is rewardable. You know, if you can speak to non-Muslims, if you can create da'wah tables and build, spread pamphlets about Islam, it's all rewardable. Again, all this is good, but is this going to solve it? No. What we need to do is do da'wah to the people of influence, to these leaders, and those who report to them, and those who report to their reports. We need to speak to the people in power. Number two, we need to desecularize the Muslim mind at all levels. So it's da'wah to the influentials plus desecularizing the Muslim mind. The Muslim mind today sees Islam as a religion. This is the biggest thamma. This is the greatest dilemma in the ummah. The biggest problem is seeing Islam as a religion, where you feel basically when you do your ibadat, your prayers and fasting and so forth, well, you're a good Muslim. No, that's not a good Muslim. Okay, that's the basis of a good Muslim. That's the foundation of a good Muslim. That's a person with the fuel to drive a righteous life, to live a righteous life. But it doesn't make you good. When you leave the world in mess, when you leave the world with oppression and injustice, that does not say that you're a good man or a good woman. What makes a good Muslim is a person who uses his ibadat to create that energy and create that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to enable him or her to stand up for justice and call for justice and implement justice. And that doesn't happen except on a social scale and a government scale. So we as Muslims, we need to become a role model. We are not here, and we've said it a million times, we're not here in the West to change anything about the West. The West can stay as it is. It's a liberal, capitalist world, perfect. We're actually thankful for, these governments to let our parents in here, and maybe for some of our grandparents in here, and even some of us basically immigrated ourselves over here, to have an opportunity for learning and so forth, have a better life. We appreciate that. But we should have a project to make our own homeland, the Muslim world, a better place. A place of civilization, a place of justice, a place that can be the real hope for the world. But when we don't call for that, when we don't call for political change, for social change, when we don't see Islam anyway, in the first place, basically, as a system of justice, a political system of justice, definitely, what do you think is going to happen? We were never going to basically get change in our situation. And to be honest, the last 40 years, or at least 35 years, it's been just basically us going down, and more down, and more down. And we're going to continue. Like, this trajectory will never change. Why would it change? What are we doing to change it? No, it's not going to change. It will never change unless we change ourselves. We need to recognize, you ask me, what do we need to do? We need to recognize that Islam is a political system of justice for every human being. That religion is one part of Islam. That we have a duty for changing the Muslim world. And that duty basically, it gets encapsulated in two things: desecularizing the Muslim mind and giving da'wah to the people in influence. This is how it works.
SubhanAllah. This is very empowering, Sheikh, because we see on Twitter and on social media that very sincere Muslims that are recognizing the bugs in the matrix or in the system where this whole secular Islam is being preached, right? We see the tweets of people saying that supporting Palestine is more rewardable than Taraweeh. And then you have other people saying, oh, bro, Taraweeh is the most important thing. Basically, you shouldn't, like all this stuff, what are you going to do for Palestine? And it's just this looking down on these type of things where they see advocacy or supporting our brothers and sisters in Palestine as separate thing to Islam.
Secondary.
The person said it's not even in the concept of Islam. Islam, Taraweeh is in it, and this is stuff that's not part of our deen.
The person who said that, without naming that person, is has a secularized mindset. You can only say such things when you have a secular Islam imprinted in your memory, in your mind. A real Muslim doesn't speak like that. Okay, I'm not doubting the person's Islam. I'm just saying his mindset is super secularized to basically see that speaking up for Palestine is not as important in these days. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look at his life. Many of the even battles in Islam happen in Ramadan. The Rasul didn't say, well, let's just sit right now and let's not engage in anything. Let's just do some. It is the Messenger himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam who said that even helping a Muslim, just helping a Muslim, like picking up his bags or just giving a ride, is better than i'tikaf in his own masjid in Medina Munawwara.
Subhanallah.
Alayhi salatu wassalam. Like, I don't understand these evaluations come literally from a poisoned Orientalist, modernist, liberal perspective of Islam, which is fully secularized. And that's why basically, if people want to engage in da'wah, let's engage in da'wah today. But engage in da'wah to your Muslim fellows within the Muslim Ummah to desecularize the Muslim mind. And this is the I3 initiative. The I3 initiative is just all about desecularizing the Muslim mind. We're going to continue to do it. And we literally, today I'm speaking to you right now, to all of our viewers directly. Every person today can help out in desecularizing the Muslim mind. This is the da'wah that you should be engaged in. This is the da'wah you should be involved in. It's peaceful, intellectual discourse within our own communities to change us in the Muslim world. Okay, we need to respect the Western countries because we're living here as citizens and permanent residents. We're not here to change anything about them, but we need to change the Muslim world. And the da'wah should first and foremost be towards our own brothers and sisters. This is my message, and this is our message in the I3 initiative.
SubhanAllah, the way you're speaking, Sheikh, reminds me of, when we read the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and we read the stories of the righteous in the past, when everyone's morale is low, sharing the bushra, sharing that optimism, right? In the Prophet ﷺ, when he was in the Battle of the Trench, and everyone felt that they were cornered and everyone was besieged, and he was promising them victories upon victories upon victories. Faris, wa Rum, was Sana'a, all of these things. And a lot of these statements came at the lowest points. And so, subhanAllah, we are at a low. But the amazing part is, even if it gets lower, lower, and lower, we really are soon going to have the only trajectory just to fly up.
Inshallah.
Inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah. Inshallah.
When it gets so dark, that's when basically the dawn comes in, right? That's what they say. And then definitely things are getting very, very tough for Muslims. And inshallah, with the right efforts and the right intention, we can lift up everybody, the Muslims and the non-Muslims. We care about every single human being on earth. We care about all the 8 billion with no exception. I'm not saying that basically because I'm on TV or whatever it is. I'm saying this because this is what Islam teaches. Actually, Islam teaches us not to care only about the 8 billion humans. We care about every animal and every plant on earth. That's how much we care about life. We care about the plant life, not just the human life. Human life is so high. We care about animal life and we care about the plant life. This is what our Prophet ﷺ have taught us. We're not allowed to even cut a tree without a real good reason. You see what I'm saying? I mean, imagine basically like if people genociding human beings, babies. It's not like even like two enemies fighting each other. No, babies, innocent children by the hundreds. This is what we're witnessing today, and humanity is fine with it. What happened to us as human beings?
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. For us to feel empowered that, right, the viewers have a role to play. We all have a role to play. And, it's a different feeling when you wake up every morning thinking, what can I do to advance the Ummah forward? And then in the night you think, what did I do today to advance the Ummah's interests forward? And gives you something to work for. So, barakallah feekum, Shaykh. Wa jazakumullah khairan. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum. All right, guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. because this is the platform on i3 Pulse where we'll speak about what's really happening, and we will empower the world and give hope, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, for a better tomorrow. So see you guys in the next episode where we will unpack some more political incidents that are occurring in the Middle East. You guys won't want to miss this. Watch this space. Assalamu alaikum.